I'm glad you're back to check out another great classic film. When I first became interested in silent film, it was silent comedies that initially engaged me. The big three of silent comedy were Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd and Charlie Chaplin. And initially that was the order in which I ranked them. Now there wasn't a single Chaplin film that inspired my change of heart about the little tramp, but I'd certainly rank this film amongst his best. That film is The Gold Rush from 1925. For me, the most apparent shortcoming of silent film was the absence of the spoken word, and the title cards only made that more apparent, as did what appears to be quite exaggerated acting. While the title cards never generated even a giggle, those exaggerated gestures can be funny, and the physical comedy is a good fit with the visual nature of film, giving silent comedies their timeless appeal. What I missed when first watching Chaplin on screen was the deeper meaning and the humanity he imbued many of his films with. Realising that was another step along my journey of having greater admiration and more respect for silent films. This film was special because of how much energy Chaplin put into its development. The idea for the film came at Pickfair, the home of Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. While viewing stereoscopic pictures of the 1896 Klondike Gold Rush, Chaplin was particularly struck by the image of an endless line of prospectors snaking up the Chilkoot Pass on their way to the goldfields. Around the same time, Charlie was reading a book about the Donner Party disaster of 1846, when a party of immigrants snowbound in the Sierra Nevada were reduced to eating their own moccasins and the corpses of their dead comrades. While none of this is particularly funny, you can see how they become the genesis of the ideas he expressed in the film. This was the only one of Chaplin's great silent comedies which he only began to shoot once the story was fully developed. He was also very selective about the footage he used. There were 27 times more film shot than appeared in the final cut. While searching for his leading lady, Chaplin rediscovered Leda Gray, whom he had employed as a pretty 12-year-old in The Kid. Not yet 16, Lolita was put under contract and renamed Leda Gray. The both of them embarked on a clandestine affair, and when the film was 6 months into shooting, Leda discovered she was pregnant. Chaplin was forced into a marriage which brought both of them misery and ended up shutting down production for 3 months. In her place, Chaplin cast Georgia Hale, who he also ended up having an affair with. When filming resumed, the production spent 2 weeks shooting on location at Truckee in the snow country of the Sierra Nevada. Here, Chaplin faithfully recreated the historic image of the prospectors struggling up the Chilkoot Pass, the image that had originally inspired him. 600 extras drawn from the vagrants and derelicts of Sacramento were brought in by train to clamber up the 2,300-foot pass dug through the mountain snow. Chaplin abandoned most of the location footage as he moved the production to the backlot and stages at his Hollywood studio. Elaborate Klondike sets were constructed and exquisite models were used to produce some of the special effects, like the miner's hut, which is blown to the edge of a precipice, for one of cinema's most sustained sequences of comic suspense. The film contains numerous iconic moments, including the roll dance, which is one of the most famous sequences in the film, and perhaps one of the best known in all film history. While it wasn't original, Chaplin did make the sequence his own. It was so popular that on occasion projectionists would stop the film and replay it for appreciative audiences. The roll dance has been replicated in one form or another by people like the Three Stooges, in the French film Band Apart, by Johnny Depp in the film Benny and June, and by both The Simpsons and The Muppets. Perhaps equally well known is the scene where the lone prospector and Big Jim have a boot for supper. The boot was made of licorice, and because it took 3 days and 63 takes before Chaplin was happy, it was really no surprise that following this, he was hospitalised suffering from insulin shock. The boot, or boots, were made by the American Licorice Company, which still operates out of San Francisco and Chicago. I don't know if they take orders for licorice boots, but it's worth a try. Following the film's premiere screening, the applause lasted for several minutes. Georgia Hale, the co-star of the film, was surprised that for once Chaplin had no self-doubts about his work. She observed, he was confident. He really felt it was the greatest picture he'd ever made. Critics generally praised The Gold Rush. The New York Times review noted that here is a comedy with streaks of poetry, pathos, tenderness, linked with brusqueness and boisterousness. It is the outstanding gem of all Chaplin's pictures, and it has more thought and originality than even such masterpieces of mirth as The Kid and Shoulder Arms. Variety said it was the greatest and most elaborate comedy ever filmed, and it will stand for years as the biggest hit in its field. The New Yorker included The Gold Rush in its year-end list of the 10 best films of 1925. Richard Attenborough, who directed the biopic Chaplin in 1992, described this as his favourite film. and Premiere voted it as one of the 50 greatest comedies of all time. Periodically, the American Film Institute puts out lists of greatest films, and The Gold Rush consistently appears in the top 100 for both comedies and for film in general. More recent lists have actually seen the film move up the rankings. Clearly, a reputation that grows over time is the mark of a really great film. It is the 5th highest grossing silent film of all time and was selected for the Library of Congress's National Film Registry in 1992. You may find many different versions of this film. It has entered the public domain, so many copies will have been made from poor quality prints. Film ratios have changed over time, so some versions will have been cropped or distorted. Modern films run at a faster frame rate, which changes the look and length of silent films. And in 1942, Chaplin released a new version of The Gold Rush, adding a musical score, a narration which he recorded himself, and tightening the editing. He also changed some plot points, and given how much extra footage he had at his disposal, he also changed some of the shots in the final cut. So why watch this film? Number one, it's a Chaplin film, which makes it good. Number two, it's one of his best films, which makes it even better. But it's worth going back and looking at the film and seeing what you can see differently on a separate watching. So look at the special effects, look at the way he set up the shots, even look at some of those iconic scenes and see what you think of them as well. So again, what I'd suggest you do is go to our website, find the link, follow it, watch this particular film. Again, try and watch it with fresh eyes, see what you think, and we'd love you to come back, leave some comments about what you think about this film, and whether you'd encourage others to watch it as well. And then we'll be back in the not too distant future for another Classic Films review. Hope to see you then.